uneven ink. It was heavy for its size, and when I lifted it, something inside shifted with a soft scrape, like porcelain sliding against wood. I remember standing there in my hallway, staring at it. The evening sun cut across the floor in long orange stripes. Everything in my house was quiet except for the ticking clock above the kitchen door. I live alone, and I don't get many visitors, so even a normal delivery would have been strange. But this felt wrong before I even opened it. I carried it to the table and sliced through the tape. The first thing that hit me was the smell, a faint, powdery scent, like old cedar and baby powder mixed together. Inside, swaddled in layers of brittle tissue paper, was a doll. It wasn't a cute modern toy. It was old, antique looking, with porcelain skin cracked faintly at the cheeks and painted blue eyes that seemed a little too glassy. Its hair was pale, almost white blonde, arranged in stiff curls under a small bonnet. The dress was faded pink with yellowing lace cuffs. Its hands were posed as if in prayer. Something about the face stopped me cold. It wasn't the prettiness or the cracks. It was the expression. The painted lips were parted slightly, like it was about to whisper something. And its eyes, though fixed, looked as though they had caught me mid-movement. I set it upright on the table and stepped back. My heart was thudding hard enough for me to feel it in my ears. This wasn't just some collectible. This felt personal. For the next hour, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe a distant relative had sent it. Maybe someone had mixed up addresses. But deep down, I knew no one in my family collected antiques. And there was no card, no invoice, nothing. Evening turned to night. I made dinner, but every time I glanced at the table, the doll was there, perfectly still. The glass eyes reflected the dim kitchen light. I could swear its head was tilted just slightly differently than before, but I told myself it was my imagination. By midnight, I couldn't stand it anymore. I carried the doll into the living room and put it on a shelf, facing the wall so I wouldn't have to see its face. I turned off the lights and went to bed, but lying there, staring at the ceiling, the smell of old cedar still clung to my hands. The silence of the house pressed in, heavier than usual. Somewhere in the dark, a soft creak echoed. Just the house settling, I told myself. just the wood contracting with the night air. Then, just before sleep took me, I thought I heard a faint, almost delicate sound, the tiny click of porcelain touching wood, like something small had moved. I sat up in bed, holding my breath. The house was quiet again. My door was cracked open a few inches. From the living room came no sound, no movement, only shadows. I waited, ears straining, until my muscles ached from staying so still. Finally, I lay back down, telling myself it had been nothing. But in the morning, when I came into the living room, the doll was no longer facing the wall. Its head had turned. It was staring straight at the doorway, straight at me. I froze in the doorway, one hand still on the frame. The doll sat exactly where I'd left it on the shelf, only now it was facing me, its painted blue eyes catching the pale morning light. I knew, with a cold certainty crawling up my spine, that I had turned it toward the wall the night before. I tried to laugh at myself. Sleep deprivation, stress. Maybe I'd absent-mindedly turned it while making coffee, or maybe it had just slipped when I set it down. Anything was better than the image trying to form in my head, the doll twisting its own neck while I slept. I forced myself to walk over, up close. The expression looked even stranger, like the lips had parted a little more than before. The faint cracks in its porcelain cheeks reminded me of veins under skin. "You're just a toy," I whispered under my breath. My voice sounded too loud in the quiet room, and that day dragged. I worked from home, laptop open on the dining table, but every time I got up for water or coffee, my eyes went to the shelf. The doll hadn't moved again, but I couldn't shake the feeling it was waiting for me to look away. By evening, the sky had gone a dull gray and rain tapped at the windows. I heated soup for dinner and tried to keep my back to the living room. But when I sat down to eat, I felt a prickle on the back of my neck, like being watched. I turned my head slow. The doll was still there, but something was off. Its right arm, which had been folded neatly in its lap, was now hanging a little lower, fingers pointing at the floor. I stared so hard my eyes burned. "I didn't do that," I whispered. I got up, walked over, and gently lifted its arm back into place. The porcelain was cool and smooth under my fingers. I stepped back, heart pounding. This time I took a photo with my phone. Then another. Evidence, I told myself. Proof for later. The rain deepened into a steady drumbeat on the roof. Night fell heavy and early. I sat on the couch, the TV flickering just for noise, but my eyes kept straying to the shelf. The doll hadn't moved again. Around midnight I dozed off. I don't know how long I slept, but I woke with a start to a soft, rhythmic sound, like something small shifting across wood. My phone buzzed on the coffee table, screen lighting up with a notification. When I looked back at the shelf, the doll was gone. I scrambled up, my chest tightening. My eyes darted around the room, searching shadows. Then I saw it, standing upright on the floor halfway between the shelf and the couch. I blinked hard, and in that split second of darkness, something changed. The doll was closer. It stood at the edge of the carpet now. Tiny porcelain shoes pointed at my feet. Its glass eyes glimmered like wet marbles. I didn't breathe, didn't move. The sound of my heartbeat drowned out the rain. Another blink. It was right at the coffee table, one hand reaching up as though to climb. Its painted lips were parted in a small, impossible smile. I scrambled back on the couch, knocking over my mug. "Stop it," I whispered. My voice cracked. Stop moving. But it didn't stop. It only stood there, staring. The lights flickered once, and in that heartbeat of darkness, it disappeared from sight. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. After the doll vanished from beside the coffee table, I spent an hour searching the house, room by room, flipping every light switch until my fingers trembled. Nothing. No trace of it. The shelf stood empty. The carpet bore no tiny footprints, just the faint outline where it had stood. By 3 a.m., exhaustion began to mix with a weird, floaty calm. Maybe I'd imagined it all, some kind of waking dream. Maybe the doll was still on the shelf and my brain was playing tricks. I walked back to the living room. The lamp cast a soft yellow glow. My breath slowed. The couch, the coffee table, the shelf, everything in its place. Empty. Silent. Then I heard it. A whisper. Faint, like someone speaking through paper walls. My name, drawn out slow. Not a voice I recognized. Too small, too high, like a child trying to imitate an adult. I spun, but the room was empty. The whisper had come from the dark hallway that led to the bedrooms. I swallowed hard. Hello. My voice cracked. Who's there? Nothing. Only the rain outside, dripping from the gutters. Then a tiny footstep. Not on the floorboards, but on something hollow, like the wooden chest at the end of the hall. My skin went cold. I backed toward the kitchen, reaching for my phone. Its screen glowed in my shaking hand. I tried to call someone, anyone, but the signal bar blinked in and out. No service. Another whisper, louder this time. My name again, but broken into syllables. Jalil. The way a child might sound out a word. I slammed the kitchen door and locked it. The old cedar smell seeped in, stronger now. My pulse hammered in my throat. I pressed my back to the fridge, staring at the dark crack under the door. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then something small scraped against the door on the other side, like a porcelain hand sliding down the wood. I grabbed a knife from the counter. My knuckles were white around the handle. Stay away from me, I hissed, though my voice barely rose above a whisper. The scraping stopped. Silence. I dared a glance at my phone. Still no service. But the screen blinked. A new notification. An image. My heart lurched. It was a photo of me, sitting in the kitchen, taken from the dark crack under the door. I dropped the phone. The clatter echoed off the tiles. When I bent to grab it, a giggle came from the other side of the door, high and sweet, like a wind-up music box gone off key. My hand trembled as I reached for the lock. I wanted to run. I wanted to throw open the door and end it, but my legs felt nailed to the floor. Then the giggle stopped. Silence so thick it pressed against my ears. And from the hall came a new sound. The faint scrape of porcelain on tile, slow, deliberate. Coming closer, I backed up until my shoulders hit the cabinets. My breath came in short gasps. The knife felt useless in my hand. The lights flickered once, twice, then went out, plunging the kitchen into darkness. The whisper was right next to my ear now. When the whisper brushed my ear, cold as breath from an open freezer, my instincts finally took over. I lunged for the back door, fumbling with the lock in the dark. My fingers slipped, the knife clanged to the floor, and the smell of cedar filled my mouth like dust. Behind me, something small shuffled across the kitchen tiles. Not running, shuffling. Slow, deliberate, like it wanted me to hear. I threw the door open and bolted into the rain. The night air hit me hard, sharp and metallic. My yard was a blur of shadows and slick grass. I didn't stop until I reached the far corner under the old elm tree, where the porch lights glow thin to black. I stood there shaking, soaked to the bone, eyes scanning every window. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Then, in the kitchen window, I saw it. The doll, standing on the counter, tiny palms pressed to the glass. Its painted lips parted in that almost smile. Raindrops streaked the window pane, making its eyes look like they were crying. I stumbled back. That window was nearly 6 feet high. I never put the doll there. Lightning cracked across the sky, and for a split second the whole house was a white silhouette. In that flash I saw something else. Faint shapes behind the doll. People, dozens of them, crowded in the kitchen like faint smoke. Men, women, children, all with hollow eyes. And then the light was gone and the window was empty except for the doll. I don't remember running back inside, but I must have, because the next thing I knew I was slamming the door shut, throwing the bolt, rain still dripping from my hair. The kitchen was empty, the counter bare, the doll gone. My phone buzzed on the floor where I dropped it. Another image. This time not of me, but of a newspaper clipping. Old, yellowed, edges burned. The headline read, "Family perishes after child's doll found at scene." I stared at the photo. The article below was blurred, but a few words stood out. House fire, whispered voices, cursed object passed down. A memory tugged at me. Years ago, when I first bought this house, the real estate agent had mentioned something about a tragedy. A family gone, rooms sealed for years. I'd brushed it off as superstition. Now I remembered the small locked door in the basement I'd never opened. I left the kitchen, every light on, knife back in my hand. My feet felt like stone as I crept to the basement door. The smell of cedar grew stronger with each step. When I opened it, cold air rushed up, carrying dust and something faintly sweet. The wooden stairs creaked under my weight. At the bottom, in the dim glow of a single bulb, stood the little locked door. The padlock hung open. I swallowed hard and pulled it wide. Inside was a tiny room, no bigger than a closet. Its walls were covered in faded children's drawings, stick figures, houses, and over again, the same shape, a doll with pale hair and a pink dress. In the center of the floor was a circle of ash, and inside the ash, perfectly upright, was the doll. It lifted its head, its lips parted wider, cracks spreading from the corners like spider webs. The whisper that came out of it wasn't a voice this time. It was dozens of voices layered together, like a choir singing through a broken radio. The house remembers. The basement bulb flickered and went out. For a heartbeat, there was only darkness. Damp, suffocating, full of whispers. The smell of cedar was so strong it burned my throat. I could feel the tiny room's walls pressing in, even though I knew they weren't moving. Somewhere in front of me, the doll's porcelain body shifted, joints clicking like teeth. I raised my phone, its screen casting a weak glow. The doll's face hovered just outside the circle of ash, hair pale as cobwebs, blue eyes shining like glass beads. It wasn't just looking at me anymore. It was aware of me, like a predator aware of prey. I wanted to run, but my legs refused. My body was locked the way it is in a nightmare, when you know something is coming but you can't move. The whispers rose higher, overlapping until they almost formed words. I blinked. The doll was closer, cracks spreading across its cheeks like veins. Its little hands were open now, fingers like claws. The ash circle had been scuffed into a crooked spiral. I blinked again harder. It stood at my feet. Its painted lips moved. This time a single voice came through. Not a whisper, but a clear, tiny child's voice. You looked away. I stumbled back, tripping over the threshold, my phone clattering onto the stairs. In the glow of its screen, I saw shapes moving on the basement walls. The faint outlines of those figures I glimpsed in the kitchen window. They were coming out of the walls, stretching like shadows, their faces blank, but mouths open in silent screams. The doll climbed onto the first step, head tilted, eyes fixed on mine. Its voice rose again, each word like a needle in my ears. One blink for you, one blink for me. I squeezed my eyes shut. When I opened them, the basement was empty. No doll, no drawings, no shadows. Only the smell of cedar and the echo of my own breathing. I scrambled up the stairs, slammed the door, and ran into the living room. All the lights flickered. My phone buzzed where it had landed on the floor. Another image. My own face, eyes closed, taken from directly in front of me. I dropped it and backed toward the front door. The house groaned around me. Every clock in every room began ticking at once, faster and faster, like 1,000 tiny feet scurrying. Something moved in the corner of my eye. I turned, but too late. The doll stood on the coffee table, head tilted, cracked spider webbing across its face. Its eyes blinked, once slowly. And in that instant, the room seemed to tear. The shadows on the walls lunged toward me, their hollow mouths spilling whispers. The doll's lips stretched wide in a soundless laugh. I squeezed my eyes shut again. My last thought before the dark folded over me was simple and sickening. If I opened them, it would be closer. If I blinked again, it would be inside. I don't know how long I've been here now, typing this. The house is silent. My phone's camera keeps snapping pictures on its own, each one of me, a little closer, eyes closed. I'm afraid to blink.